When people rush to defend themselves, when they cannot sit with silence, they reveal the wound they are trying to hide. True strength is not in loud rebuttals, but in quiet reflection. When you answer too quickly, you tell the world that your spirit is unsettled. Brothers, sisters, hear me clearly. It was a morning not so different from the ones you know, when the sun stretched its fingers over rooftops and the air carried a strange heaviness. Far away, in cities where steel towers scraped the sky, the digital noise of notifications began to hum all at once. Feeds refreshed, screens glowed, timelines filled. A message was breaking through, not a headline, not a politician reading lines written for him, but something raw. It came from here, the beating chest of Africa, not dressed up in pomp or spectacle, but simple, steady, urgent. The camera was unshaken. It looked into my eyes, not with the vanity of kings, not with the stagecraft of palaces, but with the ordinary gravity of a soldier's room. Behind me hung not golden ornaments, but maps carved before colonizers sliced our home into fragments. The walls bore the images of those who walked before, Sankara, Lumumba, Garvey, Malcolm. Their eyes were not still, their spirits pressed against mine. And I spoke, not for a speechwriter, not for applause, but for you, my scattered kin, across the ocean, across centuries. I said I am young, but my youth is not weakness. They call me revolutionary, but I carry no title greater than servant of my people. They say I stood against France, and it is true. But I stood not for pride, not for vengeance, but for dignity, the simple dignity of a people who have been bent too long. And on that day, I did not speak to Africa alone. I reached across the Atlantic to you in New Orleans, in Kingston, in Salvador, in Harlem, in London's Brixton streets. I called you family because you are not guests, not strangers, but blood divided by chains. I reminded you of what they tried to erase. I told you of the ships that stole children from their mothers, branded bodies as if divine creation could be owned. I told you of languages beaten out of your mouths, of gods buried under foreign names. But I also told you this: Africa never forgot you. We wept in silence, yes, but silence is not forgetting. They told lies, wrote history in ink that blamed us for selling our own flesh. I stood before the camera and burned that lie. Our kings resisted, our queens resisted. Guns, deceit, and foreign greed forced open the wound, but it was never our will. And then I said the truth that too many feared. Though they took you, though they renamed you, Africa still breathes in your laughter, in your rhythm, in the way your heart finds the drum, even when you do not know its origin. When you dance in Detroit, when you sing in Kingston, when you rap in Atlanta, when you preach in Lagos churches across the sea, Africa is speaking through you. As I spoke, the message moved. In barbershops in Chicago, men fell into silence. In Harlem, activists paused their work and leaned in. In Atlanta, elders clutched their beads and whispered prayers. Across continents, tears rolled down faces, not of weakness but of recognition. It was not a history lesson I gave. I did not come to describe chains. We know chains, we feel them still. I came to tell you chains can break, and they are breaking again. I told you what was happening in the Sahel, in Burkina Faso, in Mali, and Niger, that we were pushing out the neo-colonial control, not with bitterness, but with resolve. They do not shackle us now with iron, but with contracts, with debt, with puppet leaders. And we said no. We take back our land, our schools, our gold, our voices. I told you, they fear us not because of my power, but because I speak Sankara's language, because I carry a fire they thought they buried. And I told you they fear you too, not because you protest, not because you riot, but because of what might happen if the stolen and the left behind unite. So I gave an announcement. I said, we are opening the door, a new citizenship, fast track for all the descendants of the enslaved, passports, land, investment, not as charity, not as pity, but as return. If you feel homeless in America, I said, know this, you are not homeless, only landless, and land can be given back. I looked into the camera and made it personal. To the young man in Oakland, hunted by police, come home and walk unafraid. To the mother in New Orleans teaching her children hidden history, come home and touch the same ground where ancestors prayed. To the rapper in Atlanta, powerful yet searching, come home, build studios here, shape our narrative. To the grandmother in Detroit holding the memory of lynching, come home, for your strength is sacred here. I did not accuse celebrities, I called them with hope. To Beyonce, Jay-Z, Kendrick, Rihanna, Oprah, your power weighs more here than there. Bring it, build with us. I gave it a name, Operation Sanka, from the Akan, go back and fetch it. Fetch what was stolen, history, dignity, belonging. Under this, I promise not charity, but partnership. Land leased, schools bilingual, businesses co-owned, a new mosaic of return, each fragment fitting again. I warn too, Africa is no paradise. We have scars, corruption, hunger, but we also have you, and that changes everything. The world may call it a dream, but the dream had already begun. Flights filled. From New York, from London, from Kingston. People sold possessions, applied for visas. Stories spread. Mama Ruth, 82 years old, stood at JFK with a cane and suitcase. "I must touch that soil before I die," she said. In the Bronx, youth organized study groups. Farming collectives called it Back to Build. At the Diaspora Congress in Ouagadougou, thousands came, not for spectacle, but for libations poured to ancestors. Yoruba, Wolof, Haitian Creole prayers filled the air. Silence turned to song, redemption song, carried by voices across the arena. I presented the Sanka Pact, not promises, but responsibilities. Land leased, not sold. Schools honoring both roots and branches. No exploitation, only rebuilding. I called for a black global assembly outside the African Union's chains, where diaspora and revolutionaries could meet free of Western interference. Individuals stood. Dr. Asha Walker, civil rights lawyer from Detroit, ready to help rebuild our legal system. Kojo Bantu, reggae artist from Jamaica, pledging to build studios for cultural power. Workers from Brazilian favelas offering labor to raise eco-villages. Tech companies from Atlanta, Lagos, Nairobi promising secure networks beyond European surveillance. But resistance brewed. Old elites whispered, foreign intelligence smeared. They painted me dangerous, militant cult of personality. They created deepfake scandals. They tried coups, yet each attempt only deepened resolve. When traitors moved at night, it was not foreign armies that stopped them, but the Sankara Guard, diaspora volunteers, African Americans, Afro-Brazilians, Haitians, standing shoulder to shoulder with locals, shouting, "This gate is guarded by the ancestors." Bullets fell, but the movement did not. I said then, this is not the Africa of 1966, not the Africa of 1983. We will not be overthrown, we will overcome. And the world felt it. Hashtags flared. Africa still rises. Elders in South Africa sang freedom songs. Black youth in Compton painted murals of Sankara and Traoré side by side. Afrobeat artists recorded anthems. A coder in Lagos built an app to archive speeches. Diaspora energy surged, but the West retaliated. Sanctions squeezed, prices soared, banks froze, fake scandals flooded media. Some diaspora families left, doubting. Others stayed, building villages like Sankara Hills, where diaspora and locals farmed together, prayed together, disagreed together, but lived together. Mama Ruth planted cassava, saying, "I fed people with food stamps. Now I will feed with my own hands." They called her Mama Courage. A jazz musician opened a music school. A former Panther trained self-defense units. Children in schools debated Marcus Garvey and Harriet Tubman in the same breath. One day, helicopters boomed above, declaring us enemies of democracy. But someone hacked their signal. My voice thundered, "I am alive." But whether I live or die is not the question. The question is this: will you finally believe you are free? And people believed. Women sat in the streets, blocking armored convoys with their bodies. Cameras showed the world, African mothers defying tanks in silence. Convoys turned back. In that moment, revolution ceased to be theory. It was flesh and blood. When I gave my final speech, I did not shout. I said, "You were never lost. You were taken. You were never weak, only unarmed. You were never forgotten. Africa has called your name through every drought, every war, every drumbeat. Come home or build home where you stand. But no, liberation will not be given. It will be chosen by you, for you." And then I stepped into the crowd, no longer a leader but a witness. Years passed. The world studied the Burkina uprising as the moment Africa rose, not as victim, but as force. Children wore shirts with our faces beside Mandela and Malcolm. But in Sankara Hills, a small plaque beneath the baobab tree bore no slogans, no titles. It read simply, "A man came, the people answered, the rest is up to you." And that is how history will remember. Not a man, not a cult, not a headline, but a people who finally stood, who reached across oceans and stitched together what was torn apart, who said no more chains, no more lies, no more waiting. The world may have doubted, the world may have mocked, but the soil remembers, and the soil has been waiting. Thank you for listening.